Why and what is uncurated conversations? The why is my fascination with conversation, my fascination with people, my fascination with finding out who are you, where do you come from, why did you make that decision? Stories are important. Our society is built on stories, and it's within those stories where we find resilience and hope. And my goal is that we can find that resilience and hope in each of the guests that I invite over and we have a conversation with. And for me, that is why I am fascinated by not only people, but by stories and conversations. And what is uncurated conversations? Uncurated conversations is a platform hosted by me, Mlamli Mayosi, where I'm going to be inviting guests to have a conversation with me over a coffee. And these guests might be a homeless person, someone I don't know. Could be a friend of mine, someone I know very well. Or it could be someone I see from far and I think that they have an interesting story and I'd like to know more. What I do know is that we're going to have difficult conversations. We're going to have fun conversations. And through those type of conversations, hopefully you can find something that resonates with you, within my guest, and hopefully it will be of benefit to you and me. Welcome to another episode of Uncurated Conversations with me, your host, Mlamli Mayosi. Today's guest is Jessica Haysie. Jessica is a qualified occupational therapist. Jessica has also represented her country, South Africa, in synchronized swimming, also known as artistic swimming. She's also a formidable long-distance runner and also an IronMan triathlete. Jessica Haysie.
The ultimate goal was Paris 2024, the Olympics. Okay, so that.
And had you spoken about that goal from the start, prior to you guys doing the first competition in Durban?
Yes.
Okay.
But the thing was to see if I still had that passion and that that need or want that drive in me. And so that's why we just committed to the first competition. And then from then on, it was all guns blazing. We were on it, and we were going for this goal for Paris.
What was the signpost for you on that first competition which you had to tick to say you committed? Like what about that competition that gave you that assurity that, okay, I'm on board here?
Yeah, I think it was what I've mentioned before actually is like putting my mind to something and then doing it, accomplishing it. So like in that short space of 7 weeks, I got back into a whole new, sport, you know, and made up a routine and nailed it.
So now you guys, you have committed, Laura is committed to the cause.
Yes.
And the only goal, blinkers on, is
Olympics.
2024. Right, Paris.
Yeah.
officially, I think that is the clap.
Okay.
Jess,
Charles.
one of the things that I like to do is start off these sessions with something that is important in the guest's life. And I think prayer for you is important. So can you please pray for us?
Sure.
And then we can then kickstart.
Amazing. Cool. Lord, thank you so much for this time and this opportunity. I thank you for this friendship and that you are in it. And I just thank you for this day, and I thank you for our health, and that you are in our hearts. And I thank you for all of our blessings and our beautiful stories. And I thank you for this opportunity. Would you go before us today and just be with us? Amen.
Is religion important in your life?
Yes.
Yeah.
You just said that without knowing. or do you always start like that?
No, not always. I just I from listening to you, I get a sense that is.
I grew up in a Christian household, in an Anglican church actually, and then my mom broke away and started her own church, and she is now a pastor.
Oh.
Yeah, and
fantastic.
she has been for about 12 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So since you can remember, you've grown up around Christianity, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did the whole Sunday school thing, youth, and
No, when I first met you, one of the things that were always sort of like I remember was I met you by the pool in Sea Point. That was the first time I met you.
Yes, I remember.
And I think you either greeted me in Xhosa, but there was an exchange of at that time.
I think so, yeah.
And I remember saying to myself, okay, she's good people. I can hang with her. I think I you know,
yeah.
and that was amazing because you don't meet a lot of white South Africans that can speak one of the African languages.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think it's such a beautiful thing when you like try to relate to someone like with language. Like even Afrikaans, like even when you meet an Afrikaans person and you just attempt to speak Afrikaans, I think there's like it shows a lot about you if you can make that effort. And I do love like Zulu and isiXhosa.
Yeah.
Also.
Well, at least you've got it.
Also.
There we go.
Got it.
There's no K. Please tell. There's no K. It's not. You know what? It's. Goodness me, you'll laugh. It's Ikosa, and I think there's a K, but there's an X, man. Like I used to have.
What is your home language?
My home language is Xhosa.
Okay. Your English is way better than mine also would ever be.
No, but it's good because I think it's important that one of the things in our country that is missing in the whole dialogue in terms of integration, but also in terms of just being able to relate and talk to each other is language.
Yeah.
And how other people, there seems to be sort of others have to learn the language to accommodate others, whereas the others don't want to come in across the other side and just at least attempt to, you know.
Yeah.
So I commend you. I don't say that's I was like, she's good people. So, you know, I can hang with her, you know. So growing up in KZN, you said,
yes.
Where in KZN?
In the heart of Durban.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I went to all-girls Catholic school.
Okay.
From
grade
From grade 1.
Grade 1, right.
Yeah, from grade 1. I was always pretty sporty.
Okay. What sports did you play?
I did hockey.
Okay.
Loved hockey. And swimming. and a little bit of running and cross country, but I wasn't so good at it actually. I had like high performing parents.
What does that mean?
Like, so my dad was a South African hockey player. He was a goalie. And my mom was a South African netball player. I definitely tried out both. I tried netball and hockey, and then I said, sorry, Mom, I'm going with hockey.
Okay.
Yeah, and...
What about hockey was the attraction versus the netball?
I don't know, actually. I think I just... I loved the, like, the hand-eye coordination skill and using the stick and ball. I also did synchronized swimming while I was at school, but it wasn't offered as a school sport, so I did it outside of it. And people always ask me, oh my gosh, how did you get into that? Which is a valid question because it is a very interesting, like, niche sport.
Right.
So I had an au pair when I was growing up because my mom and dad worked full time, so they weren't able to pick us up and stuff. So I had an au pair, and she coached swimming at a swim school where they did synchronized swimming. And at the time, I was, I think, like 8, and I was doing gymnastics, ballet, swimming, and my au pair said to me, you know, you doing all these things, why don't you just combine them and try it in the water? And so I did, and the coach was like this really old lady who sat on the side of the pool with her legs wide open. It was great. And yeah, she told me I was good. She told me to come to a competition. I did well, and the rest is history. 20 years down the line.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's crazy. It's always the case sometimes, right? That someone else takes you to something, exposes you, and then you just realize that that flower just opens.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So it was just synchro, swimming, gymnastics, and hockey just throughout school.
Yeah. Well, I had to stop gymnastics and ballet to do more of the synchro training.
Right.
Yeah.
And academics? I mean, weren't your parents worried that too much sport and...
Yeah, you know, luckily I'm a hard worker.
Okay.
So I think I get like this, I have this thing where I put on myself, I think, like pressure to perform, and not only on the sports field, but like also in school. So I always worked really hard I wasn't blessed with the brains that my brother just naturally got. He does like all the extra maths. It's like maths paper 3 and add maths and this maths.
High grade maths.
Yes, and then gets like all A's for them in matric. Anyway.
Is he a sportsman?
He is. He's a very good rugby player.
Okay.
And fast runner.
Okay.
So, he did get both, I guess. Both genes. But he can't swim.
He can't swim. Okay, there we go.
Sorry, Darren.
Okay, all right. So, talking about him, is he your only sibling?
Oh, complicated, Charles.
Okay, do tell.
So, he was my only sibling until I was 10 years old. So for the first 10 years of my life, I grew up in this family of 4 and pretty solid, like, you know, safe. Like, this is what I knew. Very, like, cozy for 4 of us family. And then when I was 10, my brother was 8, we got sat down by my parents and they told us that along the line, my dad had another child 6 months before my mom was pregnant with me. And so that's my sister, my half sister. And so basically, like, I take my hat off to my mom. She was the one who was like, to my dad, how can you allow a child to grow up in this world without their father when you are here, you know? Because he hadn't had contact with her. And so they reached out, they made contact with her, and ever since then Tennille came and joined us on like every school holiday and things like that. And yeah, it was a big transition for our family and for her, because like I think you do a lot of forming of like relationships and your idea about family in those foundational years before you're 10 years old, you know. So it was quite a disruptive time.
Right.
But I wouldn't have it any other way if I look back now. So we had a little addition to our family. And then when I was about 15, I made friends with, so my brother's name is Jared, okay? And I made friends with, you know, like when you're in grade 9, you go hang out at a shopping mall.
Okay.
Anyway, made friends with this group of guys, and one of the guys was named Jared. And he came to our family Christmas one year and New Year. Anyway, his mom had previously passed away, and then that January his dad died, and he had absolutely no one. And so my mom, being the incredible human that she is, and my dad, took him in to our family, and yeah, a few months later he was like my adopted brother.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
fantastic.
I love to tell people that I have 2 brothers named Jared.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. And then are you the eldest out of all the siblings?
No,
or?
so my half sister is 6 months older than me.
Oh, yes, I remember. Yeah.
Then
okay.
me.
All right.
Then no. So Tennille, big Jared, me, little Jared.
Aha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did that have an impact on your relationship between your dad and your mom in terms of Tennille?
Yeah. Definitely. I think that they had worked on it a lot previously, when we didn't know about it, and they did, you know, and the decision that they made to kind of move on and not acknowledge it and not deal with it, which is quite a hectic decision to make, especially for a child, like you're, you know, leaving this child. And so I'm really grateful that my parents did come to a decision to go back, even though it was 10 years later. Like, I think, yeah, I don't actually know the reasons why they waited so long. That would be an interesting question to ask my mom and dad. Yeah.
No, I think I mean, sometimes people are not ready. It's just that,
Yeah.
you know, it's you're not ready. It's like mourning, you know, when do you say I finished mourning a person?
Exactly.
You know, you will know when the time is right.
Yeah.
You know that
Yeah.
okay, I'm old, I've done this, you know.
Yeah.
And then, so you matriculated in Kaizer in Durban.
Yes.
And then varsity.
Yeah. I was very fortunate to be able to go to Stellenbosch University, and I studied occupational therapy. I always knew I wanted to go into something where I was helping people.
Okay.
And yeah, so I did OT.
You'd mentioned earlier on when I asked you about religion, and you said that
Yes.
and
Yeah.
you made a reference to university there.
Yeah.
What was going on there where you took a dip?
Yeah, you know, I think like you get released into the big wide world. You now have your independence, and you kind of get to choose. You have more freedom to make your own decisions. You're not under your parents' household, which I think coming from a pastor's house, a pastor's daughter, there were maybe those expectations to be a certain way and live a certain way, and so now that pressure was off. And so I think I definitely did a little more exploring and like going down paths that I maybe shouldn't have. But I don't mean like super dodgy. I mean just like going out way too much and drinking way too much and
that it?
Yeah, look, I don't have a history of drugs. I literally have not touched that, which I'm grateful for. But yeah, I mean, I don't. There were moments where I was like, do I want to live like this? Which I think comes from a place of having those fundamental and foundational values as a Christian.
Right.
And also having that freedom to choose and that freedom to make decisions and to be like, oh, I am a Christian, I want to live like a Christian, do I want to go down this path? And then choosing the right way, if I can put it that way. Yeah.
But while you're there also, you're still playing the sport, so...
So my main sport growing up was synchronized swimming. And then first year, there just wasn't anywhere to do it. So in matric I went to World Champs in China for synchro, and as I said, in varsity there was nowhere to do it in Stellenbosch. Then when I moved to Tygerberg, I really missed it, and I was like, maybe I can make a plan. And so I used to drive like half an hour, 40 minutes to go to training twice a week.
Okay.
I'm in Constantia.
Okay.
Yeah. And I picked it up again, and then I did it for 3 years during those last 3 years of varsity. And I loved it. I just love being active and and then I did make the team to go to a World Champs at the end of those 3 years, but I couldn't finish my practical, which meant that I wouldn't be able to graduate with all of my friends.
Right.
Or at the end of the correct time. And I didn't want to jeopardize that, so I didn't go to World Champs.
Must have been quite a difficult decision.
It was a difficult decision. My parents were very much like, Jess, you've been, do you really need to go again? Like, let's get your studies done. And that was where I called it a day with synchro, actually.
Oh, wow. Why?
Yeah, I was going to move into my ComServe year, and I moved back to KZN, and I moved like into a rural area where there was not even a pool. So there was literally no chance of me being able to train.
Right.
And I just figured, is it worth pursuing, or how will I pursue it? And South Africa had kind of, the level hadn't really improved, and we weren't making much progress. We were kind of staying the same. So I just thought.
What year are we talking about?
2015. 2016. Yeah, 2016 I did my ComServe year, and that's when I stopped.
At that stage, do you know how many South African teams had been to the Olympics? Because I can imagine, I'm assuming the Olympics is the benchmark that you measure yourself against.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
So up until that time, 2015, 2016, do you know how many Olympic synchro teams have gone to Olympics?
Yeah, so no teams from South Africa, but the last time they had gone was 1994, I want to say, or 3. I can't remember which.
Okay.
2. In the 1990s.
But in the 90s, yeah.
In the 90s.
When South Africa first got accepted to be able to compete in the international sport.
That was the last time that.
Oh, wow.
Well, yeah, the last time that they had been to the Olympics for synchro. So it kind of, at that point, it felt like it was not on the cards at all. Like South Africa would never get to the Olympics. It was World Champs, and we were going to World Champs and we were coming last. So part of me was like, I've been to World Champs, I've had the experience. You're gonna go and come last again. Is it worth it?
But then the girls that were swimming with you in that synchro team, were they carrying on with synchro?
Yeah.
And are they, some of those girls, are they still swimming right now?
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, gosh, I can imagine. I mean, it must have been quite a difficult decision between World Champs and but I mean, I guess having been already there, it sort of made that a bit easier.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Tell me about your conserve.
Oh, my conserve year. It was the best. It was the best year. I don't want to say of my life, but it was really the best year. I had such a great time. So I was sent like 3.5 hours up north in KZN to a rural hospital in Bethesda.
Bethesda.
Yeah, so the town was Mkuzi.
Okay.
And so you had to drive up the mountain, the Ubombo Mountains.
Okay.
And I stayed on the hospital property in the government's accommodation there. And yeah, like there were spaza shops around. That was it. So you had to come 20 minutes down the mountain to go to like a spa or a shop. So yeah, it was really different to how I was used to living.
In what way?
I think just like the convenience of shops, you know, like being all around you, and then just general like city life, like yeah, how like houses all around you, tall buildings, shops. Like bearing in mind I had just come from Cape Town, so you know it's very fancy.
It's Cape Town.
It's Cape Town. And so.
But did you choose to go there, or was it sort of like a lottery, and then you just get placed wherever you?
Yeah, so you can apply for 5 places. That was my first choice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why that place?
I think I am the type of person that likes a challenge, likes a little adventure, and I had heard good things about the place, and I didn't mind going back to KZN. I opted for KZN because I could come home if I needed to, whereas if I was like in the Northern Cape, I would be super isolated. So yeah, I went for KZN.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No, what a challenge! I mean, you say from Cape Town to.
Yeah, and to like living in the hospital accommodation and then being surrounded by like shacks and like settlements and cows on the road, and you know, like totally immersed in a different culture and different like living environments, which I think is so good. Like you have to be like taken out of your comfort zone to learn, and to I don't know, shape your experiences and your opinions about the world and other people. And that's where I learned a lot of Zulu.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I walked around the hospital with it was a tiny little dictionary. Yeah, so I'd go to the little gogos and say, Sawubona, Johnny. And then, you know, like, Slalapati. I know. Sit up. Pakamisa. Pagam. And what? Now I can't remember anything.
Maskulum. Maskulum.
And like like Goba Idolo and yeah. Now I can't remember anything, but anyways.
But we'll start off with more Unjani.
Yeah.
Unjani.
Ndiyaphila.
Okay, that's good. Unjani.
Yeah. Oh. Now you're just switching to Xhosa.
You should be able to switch.
Oh. Yeah.
See, that's the it's one of the beautiful things about coming back to what you're saying about exposing yourself to different cultures, is that I know when I was growing up, for a very long time in my life, I was exposed to the white culture. So when you start thinking, you think in English, you know.
Hectic.
So even when I go home to the rural areas during holidays, I'm still in that mindset because I was at boarding school.
Oh, okay.
So I wake up in the morning, I'm around white people, white kids, right? And at that stage, going to boarding school, there were probably about 5 of us in the board. 5, I want to say us in terms of black kids.
Okay.
I think there were probably about, I could be wrong, but maybe 100 kids altogether.
Wow.
So, and it was right in the beginning so I went to boarding school when I was 12, 1992.
Okay.
Don't be fooled, I'm very old.
Yeah, wow, you look good for your age.
So every day I was exposed to English, and then so you start thinking like English because you're speaking English the whole day, you know. And but the beautiful thing now is that when I was going home, I used to go home, I used to now be forced to, not because I couldn't, but I used to be able to speak Xhosa.
Yes.
So I speak Xhosa. So that's switching between English, Xhosa,
Yeah.
Zulu, a little bit of Tswana here and
Yeah.
there. You know, it's quite easy in the moment because one has been exposed to all these things. And
That's very cool. I think you're very lucky that you have that.
It's and
how's your Afrikaans?
Kan Afrikaans praat.
Ah.
Kan 'n bietjie Afrikaans praat. Ek kan nie sê Afrikaans praat, maar ek kan 'n bietjie Afrikaans praat.
I'm impressed.
So the school I went to was a predominantly English school. You know, we were against Afrikaans.
Yeah.
And then, as the universe would have it, my second job, the lady that I was working with, she was from Oudtshoorn. And she could not speak English.
Oh my.
And we're like this. We used to like rove around together. And that's how I learned Afrikaans.
That's
so,
amazing.
so I used to speak English to her, then she answers back in Afrikaans, and then da.
It's the only way to learn.
And then that's how I learned it. Yeah, you know. No, it's beautiful. I mean, it's a lovely language. It really is a lovely language. Very expressive.
Yeah.
But so is Xhosa.
Yes. That's true.
So take me through a day at the hospital there.
Yeah, we'd go into the hospital and we'd get our stat sheets. We'd go into the OT office, and there was a head OT, and then two comserves and another OT. So there were 4 of us all together.
Right.
Is that right? Yes. And then we'd grab our stats sheets, and you'd be allocated to different wards. So some would be on like the TB ward, and some would be on peds, so the kids ward, and then you would go to that ward and make sure that you see all your patients throughout the day, which is something that you have to juggle because sometimes they are busy with the doctor or they're busy with another health professional. So yeah, you just have to make sure that you see all your patients that you have on your stats sheets by the end of the day, and then any new referrals that come in. And then there's OPD, which is outpatients department, where you get walk-ins, and those will be like referrals from the doctors, like, and it can range from literally like hand injuries to amputations, to everything. So there would always be someone in OPD to handle the walk-in referrals.
Okay.
Yeah.
In that area where you stayed, what were the most type of cases that you worked on as an OT?
Lots of stroke patients. Like limbs being paralyzed. Yeah, and
due to stroke.
Yes, due to stroke. So hemiplegic, so only one side of the body would work. We had lots of snake bites.
Okay.
Lots of snake bites, and we would be referred the patients for, because the wherever it was bitten, let's say for instance the hand, would swell so much and become so swollen and edemic that they wouldn't be able to move. And so once the swelling and the healing takes place and the doctor addresses it, then we would be brought in for just like general mobilization and assessing the movement and the strength and the function in that part of the body. So yeah, that was a very interesting and different thing. I think because of the way that the community lives in terms of their houses and like sleeping on the floor, like literally people would wake up with snakes in their bed.
Right.
What
type of snakes?
I don't know what type of snakes. But yeah, my favorite day at ComServe was the home visit days. So we would take the government car and no one else would drive the car. So there's me in this government vehicle 4x4ing through the community, and you have your home visit patients that you go and see, and literally directions are like, go to this clinic, ask for Sister Ndlovu, and ask her to show you where the greenhouse is. When you get to the greenhouse, turn left, go down to the stops, to the, I don't know, the spaza shop, and then it's 3 houses to the right. That would be the directions.
Wow.
And it was like, it was hectic, but it was so much fun. Yeah.
No GPS there.
No GPS. No GPS.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why I know kind of like that they were sleeping on the floor and snakes were in their bed, because we went into the homes and we'd like do home visits and things like that.
And what type of picture did that give you of the real South Africa versus how we live now in Cape Town, in a city? And I mean, as a kid from the city, I'm sure that was part of the experience for you.
Yeah, I think that's what I enjoyed so much about the home visits, is that I got this real like overall picture of this patient, you know, like where they live, how they live, and then you're able to relate and connect like the illness or the difficulty or the functional difficulty that they're experiencing with their home environment, and like how much harder it is to manage. Like we used to go visit lots of CP children, so children with cerebral palsy.
Right.
And you know, like where the wheelchairs, how the wheelchairs get into the house, where they're sleeping, where they go to the toilets, you know, all of those things. Like it was incredible to see, and just actually heartbreaking.
How do the parents manage that specific example situation there? I mean,
it makes you realize how unbelievably like resilient and hardworking and dedicated these parents are when they have a child with disabilities, because it's hard work, and just the appreciation for the small things in life that they do have, and like the community around them. You can see that they have a big community, like a big family. It's not just their little shack and who lives in their house. It's the greater community at large that's all caring for each other, which I think is quite different to how we live in the city. You know, we often don't go to our neighbor and say, hey, how you doing? Like, can I help with anything? Whereas in this community, in this rural community, that happens all the time. So quite a big contrast.
And when you were growing up, did you grow up in a similar community, or in a community when you were growing up? How did you grow up?
No, not like that. Not like this rural community. I think my mom started an NPO in a informal settlement, literally over the road over the hill from our house. And so I had been exposed to shack settlements and interacting with that community
from a young age.
And we often did like clothes drives and soup kitchen things. Now it looks a lot different. It's more of a relationship, and I have quite good relationships with people from that informal settlement, and I think that like it's just given me, or it's taught me a lot about like the value of funny that I say this, but like finding out someone's story and that there's more to them than where they live and their situation, you know. Just an example, like during lockdown, we were working closely in this community in Durban, and we were walking around and I found this lady just crocheting in her house, and I was like, this is amazing. We connected. Her name is Tubbs, and during lockdown I started this like platform to sell her stuff.
Oh,
and then tried to like empower her with business skills, to what products to make. But anyway, I think like I got close with her and like found out, you know, that she needs to pay school fees for her son and her daughter, and that her husband had interest in becoming a plumber. And so, you know, like there's so much more to just the situation that someone is in, or like from the outside living in an informal settlement. Oh, shame. But actually, there's so much hope in that house. Yeah. Actually, I wish you could meet Tubbs. She should come here and tell her story.
Invite her. Okay, Matt, cut, done. No, I'm joking. Oh, that's beautiful. And you're so right, Jess. I mean, this is my why I do what I'm doing. Yeah. This is exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because I've also, through my journey, have realized how you can't just look at someone and just make up your own fantasy in your head about this person, of knowing this individual. Yeah. And as you know, we're all complex, you know, and out of that complexity comes these beautiful nuances that create this beautiful person who we are, and also sometimes can go other way, you know. Okay, cool. So door to door, going into people's homes, and was the community quite welcoming towards you from the beginning, or how was the interaction?
Yeah, I think that they were quite used to white people.
Okay.
And you were kind of seen as doctor, so you brought the sense of help and hope whenever you came into their homes. I mean, there was obviously this need to have respect and, you know, their environment, but yeah, they were very welcoming.
It's beautiful. I mean, it's the first time, to be honest with you. I mean, where I come from, okay, but let me qualify that. We've got a day hospital, but I have never used it, first of all.
Okay.
So I don't know if they've got OTs in those day hospitals, because it sounds to me like, one, your skills are very much needed in those communities.
Yeah, they are.
But two, I don't know whether the guys within those communities realize how important your skills are. You know, because my dad had a stroke. So I understand perfectly the role and the importance of OTs in terms of recovery and stuff like that. And he had that one you're talking about where half his left side. Yeah. So it was a very difficult time, not only in my life, but in his life, because you're not only dealing with the physical ramifications of the stroke itself, but the psychological,
cognitive.
Look, no. Look, psychologically, he was on it. I mean, he could understand. He could have a very, very cogent conversation, and we could talk about politics, like no problem. No, he was there, but just that seeing himself in that state, you know, and how did you ever have an experience with patients like that, and how important is that towards the patient's recovery?
Yeah, I think it's that like adjustment of what your functioning is post-stroke or post-injury, you know, and realizing the impact and what you no longer can do independently. And that's kind of where OTs come in, and we try and make adaptations so that you can perform these tasks that you could beforehand, just with like a little bit of assistance, maybe in some way. So I think like I didn't really. I think I had experiences of that more in varsity in my practicals.
Okay.
With patients with strokes, not so much in the hospital. I found that community was super like hardcore.
Okay.
They were like, well, this has happened and now we got to deal with it. Like, it is what it is, sort of thing. And they like listened to you and what you had to say, and kind of was like very accepting of, okay, this is my life now. Which is very interesting and very hardcore, as I said, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think speaking from experience, I mean, with my dad, it was a different experience because I think he found it very difficult to accept that now he needs assistance, first of all, to go to the bathroom.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. It's a huge thing. Yeah. And that you know, like your role kind of changes a little bit, and your independence.
Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly
Yes.
it. Yeah. Sure, I can imagine that must have been hard for him. How old were you when that happened?
No, recently.
Oh, really?
My dad passed away in COVID.
Oh,
yeah, so he had a stroke in 2018.
Okay.
And then he stayed with me the whole time. So just like, yeah.
So you were the carer?
Yeah.
Wow, Charles.
Yeah.
That's hectic.
Yeah.
That's full on.
That was, yeah, it's, you know, during that time, a lot of things happened in my life. But one of the things I always take away is seeing the fragility of life and how fragile life actually is.
Yeah.
That for me was probably, and when you watch your loved one go and just degrade, you know, and you sort of question your choices in life, you know, and I think that's to me. So that whole part of my life sort of started off so many other things where if you're open to that type of thinking, is that you start to question, but then why am I doing this if this is the end case, you know, and those type of things. But having said that though, it was such a beautiful moment for me when I look back, because I was fortunate that I also had my son, and so it was very difficult. You know, it was very difficult, but I think that, I mean, also I grew up at a home where, from a young age, we're always told that you look after your parents.
Yeah.
You know, I remember when I grew up, my grandmother coming home and my mom coming home to live with us, and my mom looking after her. You know, so I grew up so that I saw that.
Yeah.
You know, and so I used to find it very strange, older, when I used to see my friends or know people who say my parents are going to old age home.
Yeah.
That used to be very, very weird to me because, you know, it's like, but having said that though, I mean, there was a time even with my dad where it was just getting too hectic and I couldn't manage the way on my own. Yeah. So it was literally at that stage where I had to, we had to, not me, but as a family, we had to say, okay, maybe in an assisted living home, he will have much better care and attention than what I can give him. Yeah. You know, so I think there is a time where you have to let go and realize that there's people that can do much better than I can do. You know?
What do you think your son will do? Having experienced being in the home with you and your dad, you know?
You know, my philosophy is teach through watching.
100%.
That's my philosophy.
Yeah.
You know, that's all I can do. I
Yeah.
can't control what he does in the future,
Yeah.
but what I can control is what I expose him to.
Yeah, and what you teach through your actions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, so I'm hoping that he'll take the positive things out of it.
Yeah, you've laid the foundation, definitely.
You know.
Yeah.
So I've got a lot of time for people in your profession. You know, because I've firsthand had contact.
Yeah,
with
you
them.
totally understand
Yes.
the value of someone helping to bring back function when function is lost.
100%.
Yeah, and participation in meaningful activities. That's basically what we do.
And how function is so integral to one's self-esteem and oneself. And so when you remove that function, you are killing the self.
Yeah.
And so self is linked to identity and all these things, la la la. And so it's sort of like a holistic
100%
thing, mesh, you know. And so that's why I often see back home, you know, men and women, but mainly a lot of men I find get strokes back home. I don't know whether statistically that is correct. And the guys don't go to rehab because I understand the access to those facilities are not there. You know, it's a gravel road to get just to the small town, transport. How do you accommodate someone with a stroke into a taxi, into a bus, you know? So I could go on about it, but I've got okay, cool. So now you are in the village, no sport. Are you not getting like angsty and like, I need to run, I need to do something? And I'm like, I come from the sporty background, all of a sudden like 0 to 0 in terms of sport.
I know. So I started running a bit, and I used to go in the community, and you know, people will say it's not safe. I'm like, I go there in my OT uniform. What's the difference if I go there running? Anyway.
So you carried on running into the community.
Yeah, I believe good things about people. Maybe too much in this day and age.
I think it's a good trait.
Yeah.
And during this time, any relationships, boyfriends in the mix?
Oh,
what's
my
happening?
goodness.
You know what I mean? Someone, maybe you've been running too much into the community. Maybe there's someone there that you like thought, hey, duck. Just quick left here, duck.
Yeah.
I mean, take left, 3 houses down, you'll find me there.
No one in ComServe. No, I had a boyfriend during varsity. That was quite serious, but then we broke up.
Okay.
And then I went to ComServe, and it was a good year to just be free and figure out my profession and just the world of adult living. Yeah, and then I kind of landed with my bum in the butter when I got a job the next year.
Right.
At a short-term remedial school in Durban.
Okay.
So then, that was kind of like my path was laid out before me.
Okay.
And I moved back to Durban. I was adamant that I wasn't going to move home with my parents, so I found a digs.
And big girl now.
Yeah. Stayed in a digs that was like probably 2 kilometers away from my parents' house, paying so much rent. I don't know what I was thinking. Anyway, I eventually, a few years later, moved back home
sanity prevails.
to save money. But I was there for 6 years at that school, and so during that time, I met someone and had a relationship.
Okay.
Yeah, which went far, and we actually got engaged and got so far as getting married.
So how old are you now in this?
I was 25.
25.
25 when I got engaged and married.
Okay.
25, 26, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and then...
Still no sport, nothing's happening. You're still doing it, but now you're back into sport and living your best life on that side.
So when I moved back to Durban, I was very sad to leave the rural hospital. I would have loved to have stayed. But I moved back to Durban, city life again, as chilled out city life can be in Durban though.
Durban is too chill.
It's so
Cape
chill.
Town is chill, but Durban is another
Yeah.
level.
And then I started CrossFit when I was in Durban.
Okay.
And that's where I met this guy that became my husband.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
And that was when I was 25. Yeah.
Quite young, eh?
Very young.
How do the parentals feel about that?
Yeah, I don't know, like, I think you're in Durban, like, when you meet someone, it became like a routine. Like, people would meet someone and then by 25, 26, you were getting engaged, getting married. Like, that was kind of the order of events.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is it still that way? Oh, what do you...
Yeah, I do find it that way. There's only a handful of people that are like 30s and single.
Oh.
Yeah.
So if you're 30s and single and a woman, you're in...
Yeah, there's not a lot of opportunity there.
You gotta leave the city, yeah?
Hence why I'm in Cape Town. Wait, let's get back to the
Let's
story.
Okay, so CrossFit, you meet your future husband there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, and I loved CrossFit. I found it really challenging and so much room to like learn new things, new movements, and grow, and met a cool community as well.
So you're not doing, so you've literally hung up your swim costume.
Yeah.
So you're not even, when you get back to Durban, you didn't like go in the cupboard and say, maybe.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Yeah, but it definitely was in the back of my mind. But I think I filled that void with the CrossFit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Look, I mean, I can't even say CrossFit is similar to any of the other sports that you're doing because it's like a very power sport,
yeah,
right?
It is very different, which is why I'm saying, like, I went in there and there was so much to learn.
Right.
Because I knew nothing about it. I'd never really lifted weights or done all those cool things like pull-ups and rope climbs and things like that.
Was it just, I'm walking past this place, it looks interesting, let me just pop in and see if I can do these things? Like, how did you actually get yourself into the CrossFit studio?
Yeah. I think I had been wanting to do some form of exercise and I didn't know what. And I researched like either joining a gym and doing your own thing versus going to CrossFit. And then I messaged this place and I went. And yeah, I loved it. I really did. I was there for 5 years. Yeah. I did a few CrossFit Opens and I did quite well.
Oh, some competitions even?
Yeah, I did some competitions. Yeah.
Oh, lovely. And why didn't you carry on?
Because just life happened and basically like I think so like I met this guy and then we got married and we were in this CrossFit community and things weren't really working out with me and him, and I won't get into the nitty-gritty of it because it's really sad that our relationship didn't work and had to end, and I really tried everything in my power to make it work and get a positive outcome, but unfortunately I had to accept the ending of that, and I think removing myself from that CrossFit community and environment was one of the steps that I had to take during this time when the relationship wasn't doing so well. I think like with people and talking, it didn't help, and so I took myself out of that situation, and then I was like, again, okay, I need something. What's next? And then I tried getting into triathlons.
Just maybe triathlons might work.
Yeah. And so that was kind of also like during the divorce. That was a saving grace for me, was pouring myself into triathlons and getting into something new, and just filling my time a lot with sport or activity, and that helped me a lot. What
about those whatever activity you're doing? what was happening around that time when you're actually doing the activity that was helping you getting through this difficult moment?
Yeah. What do you mean?
Like, let's just take a triathlon as an example. I mean, you're running 20Ks on a session in terms of training. You know, what about those runs when you're running?
Yes.
And whatever you've got in your mind in terms of the stress and the drama that's happening at home or whatever. And so my question is, at that moment in time, what about the sport that you're doing that sort of was your refuge?
Yeah. So it was that that thing of like setting a goal and then knowing what I was working towards, and so going for that run and kind of like knowing I was one step closer to achieving the goal because I had done X, Y, and Z. And so those runs made me feel like I had accomplished something, you know, like there was this sense of like, okay, well done, you did this today, you know, you did this run, and that's going towards an end goal or a bigger picture. And so every day there was something to accomplish, like something to hold on to, I suppose, and give myself like that positive feedback, I suppose, of like, yeah, get up, go for a run, cool, you've done it, Jess. Like during that time, to be honest, getting up out of bed was like the biggest accomplishment. So yeah, the fact that I could work towards a goal and do those runs and swims and cycles was amazing.
It definitely was amazing because I think I've never been through a divorce, fortunately, and I don't wish it upon anyone. I've got friends who've been through that. It's especially when there's kids involved, it's horrendous. But the mental impact that process, that time of your life has on you, I think sometimes is quite understated, because obviously there's, for whatever reason, the divorce was caused, but there's animosity between the two partners. There's, you know, and so what interests me is that drive to get out of bed, that drive to set the goal. Because at those times when it's dark and you're depressed and you just want to close the curtains and you don't feel like getting out of bed, as you said, you know. And because I think that's where we cognitively we know what we should be doing, you know, but then the alarm goes off and you look outside, it's like, nah, not today. Close curtains. What that mindset, you know.
I think like I really did feel in that time, you know, that everything that I had hoped for and wanted, and how I pictured my future was literally like falling apart in front of my eyes. And there was a lot of disappointment, a lot of like also shame, I suppose. You don't really want to share that your marriage has failed, that you're going through this divorce, and you don't want to share that with people. You don't want people to know, because for me it felt like a failure, and so I think the drive to do something was to, I don't know, I guess take some sort of like hold back on my life in one specific area, and say, you know, just because this has happened in one area of your life doesn't mean it's forever, doesn't mean it's your future, and that there is good coming. You know, you are able to pick yourself up again and look for the good and do something good, do something for yourself.
You're right.
So I think that I definitely needed that during that time. It's, I think maybe not in such a positive way, it was also something that I could control. whereas the other part I couldn't really control. And yeah.
I got a sense that that's what you were talking to, is that control. Here's something that I can control. I can control the outcome. I can control the results. Whereas this other thing, there's another individual involved.
Yes.
And depending on how he thinks today, that's how the direction of the day will go. You know. So.
Yeah, because relationships are both parties, whereas this like pursuit of getting fit and doing a race is kind of, it's you.
And you're accountable to yourself.
To yourself, exactly. So yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah.
And have you always found that that's been your pattern in terms of just doing all these races and doing all these things? That
yeah, I think it's a little bit different now. I've let go of that sense of control over it. It's more because I want to, it sounds weird, but I want to do hard things. I want to challenge myself. And so I take on things that are like hard, physically hard, mentally hard. For who knows what reason I do it, but I do it. I just have this like drive, I think, to prove to myself that I can accomplish this thing, that I can put my mind to something and I can do it. And so that's what landed me back in synchro. After a 6-year break.
So, but hang on, before we get to synchro.
Sorry.
Now you are, okay, so you now started triathlons.
Yes.
And you've been just to sort of regain that sense of self.
Yes.
You know, and sort of regain some sense of hold onto your life, because if I'm hearing you correctly, things were just spiraling beyond your control. And so you're doing the triathlons and then left before we get to the triathlons, actually, during that period of time, your mom and your dad and your siblings, where are they in terms of support structure? Do you have a support structure?
So I was very, very fortunate that my parents were very much aware of everything going on in the relationship. Not everything, but aware of the relationship
things.
And how things were kind of spiraling and what it was doing to me. And so they supported me in my decision. And I did kind of move back home for a while. So I had that kind of really anchor support. I had a stable job still, and where I had been for 5-6 years. So those girls also really knew me and could support me there. And then I had 5 really close best friends in Durban as well. And so I had a really good community. And I had my church that I was a part of. So I had a good community supporting me and carrying me through that time. I didn't feel like I was alone. Although I did feel like no one really could relate. And my brother, little Jared, was in London. He had moved there. So that was hard. That was hard for him because he felt so far away, yet still very protective. And Big Jared was living at home as well, so he was there. And then my sister was in Cape Town.
Okay.
Yeah.
People not being able to relate. What do you mean?
I think going through a divorce is, even though we didn't have kids, there's this element of like, what's the word? Like, marriage is a big decision. It's a big thing, you know. And so like breaking that and going through the separation of now all your belongings and the legal process that goes with it, it's different to just a normal breakup. You have literally decided to merge your lives, and now you are trying to untangle them and separate, like I was saying before, also that idea and that role. You are a wife or a husband, and now you have to take that back, and you are no longer a role, a husband or a wife.
Right.
You know, you have to take that back, and you also have to accept that the future that you thought was right in front of you, like as a wife, as a potential mom, sooner rather than later, you know, that falls away. Not forever, but it was in reach, and now it's no longer. And so I felt like people, like my friends, maybe couldn't relate. Not many of them were married at that time, or they were getting married, so they were like
right, happy
and
yes.
yeah. So it was quite tough in that sense. But yeah, what my community and God got me through that time. Yeah.
I mean, looking back now, what would you say to the Jess at that time was going through that, with the experience you have post that period? But at that time when you were going through those things, like what would you say to her then?
Yeah. I think I'd probably say, you know, hold on to what you know is true, like that, you know, like that you have God and He is faithful. He will come through for you. Hold on to what is true about yourself. So like that I am worthy, I am valued, I am loved, even though at that time you don't feel like that. I would say hold on to the truth, almost like you have to say it to yourself every day, you know, like those affirmations. Yeah, I would probably tell myself to do that. Yeah.
Do you blame yourself for the marriage?
No, I don't. I think that it's a relationship is a two-way thing, and when I was going through this time, in my heart I needed to know that I had done everything possible to try and save it, and I can confidently say that I did.
Fantastic.
So it was the next decision that had to be made. So yeah.
In hindsight.
And I slowly but surely found my joy again, and I am a completely different person, and to be honest, I'm very grateful for the experience. I could do with the extra 4 or 5 years of my life back, but I have learned so many lessons, and I'm a better person for it, honestly. Stronger, confident, like decisive, which are all things that I really struggled with. So
Struggled with those things within the marriage, or was it just things that you struggled with throughout your life?
I think before, throughout my life, and then in the marriage kind of was exacerbated by this feeling of insecurity and just I think low self-confidence even more. So it's been a journey. It's been a journey getting out of it, but the joy does come back. It does come back.
What is that joy?
The joy for me was so real. It was literally a matter of seeing the beauty in a sunrise again. Honestly, like I was going day by day, just getting through the days, until there were days where I'd wake up and be like, wow, look at that sunrise, or wow, it's so nice to be outside and enjoy the sunset. I was like, oh, okay, there's hope. You know, there's light at the end of the tunnel. And that for me was me regaining my joy.
Right. Okay. So and then somewhere along the line, synchro came back.
Yes.
Like, because now you're telling me earlier on that you looked at the pool, not today.
Yeah.
What happened?
So actually, right before COVID hit, this this girl Laura, my friend Laura, called me. Now we go back from like old synchro days, from when I was like doing all the competitions when I was younger, and I trained with her when I was in varsity in Cape Town. So she calls me up randomly and says, Jess, I'm still in the synchro game and South Africa has a spot at the next Olympics. Will you come back to synchro?
So Laura had just come back from Olympics.
No, this was pre-Tokyo.
Pre-Tokyo.
Yes.
Okay.
She called me up and she asked me would I come back, and I had just got married at that time. I had a good job. I was living in Durban. I said, Laura, I hung up my costume and goggles and all of that. I can't commit to coming back, because I knew the commitment would be a move probably. Anyway, so I said no, and I watched Laura's journey. She found someone else and they went to Tokyo. And I was like, I can't believe I said no.
I was going to ask you, dude, you had the chance to go. You had like Olympics right there.
I know. So anyway.
How did that make you feel?
When? After?
Watching the progress, watching Laura at Tokyo, and you're thinking to yourself, but...
It was very hard. Very hard.
That could have been me.
Knowing that, I mean, there were definitely valid reasons why I said no. So, I mean, I can only live with that knowledge. But definitely a lot of regret. Hence, why when she came back from Tokyo, I said, Laura, are you done, or are you going to go back again?
Oh, so did you now make the phone call to her?
I did ask her. I did say, what's your take on it? But she was busy with doing a mixed duet with Ayrton. And so, she was kind of focusing on that. And I had just come out of this divorce, and I was now doing triathlons, much more independent and free now, and kind of got my joy back. So I did approach Laura and say, what is your take on, are you carrying on? And just to get a feel. And then I backed off a bit, hesitant, and then she came at me and she was like, Jess, come on, like, just get back in the water, let's see what you got. So at that point, I came to Cape Town. I was still living in Durban. I came to Cape Town for Cape Town Marathon. Did a marathon, my first marathon. I was very stoked. The next day, Laura says, come, let's get in the pool, let's see what you got. So I did a few things and I surprised myself, and I was like, oh, okay.
You still got it.
Still got it. So I took a few days to think about it, went back to Durban, and then had a Zoom session with the coach, Vicky, who's in Joburg, and Tanya, the assistant coach. And they said, well, why don't you just commit to a competition that's in 7 weeks' time in Durban? So I was like, okay, fine. That's it. Let's just see how it goes. So Laura and I started choreographing a duet, and we would go for training camps in Joburg with Vicky. Laura would come down to Durban. I'd go to Cape Town. So it would be like a solid weekend of training. And then we did well at the competition in December.
Okay.
And the next one was in April the next year. So we committed to that. And I saw that there was this potential. So the ultimate goal was Paris 2024, the Olympics. Okay, so that.
And had you spoken about that goal from the start, prior to you guys doing the first competition in Durban?
Yes.
Okay.
But the thing was to see if I still had that passion and that that need or want that drive in me. And so that's why we just committed to the first competition. And then from then on, it was all guns blazing. We were on it, and we were going for this goal for Paris.
What was the signpost for you on that first competition which you had to tick to say you committed? Like what about that competition that gave you that assurity that, okay, I'm on board here?
Yeah, I think it was what I've mentioned before actually, is like putting my mind to something and then doing it, accomplishing it. So like in that short space of 7 weeks, I did I got back into a whole new, sport, and made up a routine and nailed it.
And how long, for a layman,
Yeah.
for what you did in that routine,
Yeah.
how long would it take someone who's been out of the sport for that long,
Mm.
or even not even someone out of the sport, because
Yeah.
you did it in that 7 weeks,
Yeah.
but an average person, an average child that you've maybe trained, how long would they normally take to do that routine and complete it with that specific score?
Yeah, I would say probably like 3 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So just a little bit longer than our 7 weeks, but we crammed in and we worked really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And so that element of like putting your mind to something and accomplishing it was like a wow factor for me. And I was like, wow, we actually do have quite a lot of potential.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, then we set our sights on the Olympics. And
But hang on now.
Yeah.
Also, you still, did you stop now triathlons?
Yes.
Because you're doing well. You're
Yeah.
doing well with I mean,
Mhm.
you are how well were you doing with the triathlons?
Yeah, so that was really hard. That was a hard thing because I had just got into triathlons. I did my first 70.3 Ironman in Durban,
Mhm.
and I came third in my age category, which was pretty good for like a first timer.
This one, pretty good. People train like for a year just to do a 70.5 Ironman, and here you are like,
Yeah.
let me just do an Ironman quickly, and then you come third in your age group. That's damn good, girl.
Yeah, so it was hard to give that up, but I knew that I wasn't going to go to the Olympics or triathlons. So I decided to go full force and try for synchro to go to the Olympics.
Okay.
So I slowly but surely eased off on the cycling and running training. And also it was hard because those activities make your hamstrings short. And I needed flexible hamstrings for synchro.
To a layman, what is a short hamstring? Like what impact does a short hamstring have on your sport?
Yeah, so for synchro we need to be able to do the splits and to be able to touch our toes or further than touch our toes when you bend over. And so it just prevented that movement and that flexibility.
Right.
And so I slowly but surely eased off on those things and increased my flexibility training and the synchro training, and eventually moved to Cape Town in April last year.
Yeah.
April? What year are we in?
2024.
April 2023.
Yes. Yeah, that's when I met you. Yes, that's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Big move.
Yes, it was a big move. Very risky. Gave up my cushy job in Durban for a uncertain kind of environment in Cape Town. I had a job. I had a job with a lady. I was covering her maternity position.
Mm-hmm.
So that was quite ideal because it was part-time, so I could train a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I was staying with Laura's clients in his spare room. So that was helpful for like the finding accommodation and rent aspect of things, made the transition smooth, but it's a big move.
It's a very bold move.
Yeah, I often tell people that even like if you're going to move overseas or you're going to move provinces, it's kind of the same thing. You're completely taken out of your comfort zone. You have to find a new community, people, shops.
Where did you find the courage? Because I mean, you're just coming out of a divorce where you've had these 4, 5, 6 friends around you and your church and your family. Now you're leaving the cocoon for the unknown.
Yeah, it was really hectic. It was a big, courageous move. But
what drove you?
Somehow, like I felt like I had this courage in me, and I was like, I can do this. That thing of like, I can set my mind to something and I can accomplish it, no matter what the odds are, and no matter what the challenges are. and what I've got to do. I can do this.
Right.
And I think it was that like belief in myself after coming through something so difficult, that like I felt like I could do anything. Yeah, that new sense of life and hope, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So big move. And it's been hectic.
In summary.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you move into Laura's client's place, and then the training starts now.
Yes.
Yes. So now you guys, you have committed. Laura's committed to the cause.
Yes.
And the only goal, blinkers on, is
Olympics.
2024.
2024.
Right, Paris.
Yeah.
Talk me through that period of your guys' training for Olympics. When you train as an athlete for such an event, where do you start? Where do you start?
Yeah. Exactly. So we were very lucky. We have Vicky from Team Phoenix, Vicky and Dave. Vicky took Laura to the Tokyo Olympics with Clarissa.
Right.
And then Tanya was the assistant coach during this time as well. So we still had those people to help us. And they were on the side of the pool the whole time and giving us programs to do. But it did take a lot of responsibility from our side to make sure we got those things done and make sure we rock up at the pool.
Right. So there was already you were coming into an environment where there was already a system established from the past, from the previous Olympics. So there was knowledge there to know competition, what goes on, and so for you it was a bit more easier to plug into that system.
Yes.
Right.
But we soon realized that we needed more. We needed more input. And everyone involved realized that. Like even Vicky and Tanya were like, we need some international input.
At what level? In terms of input, what type of input?
In terms of coaching.
Right.
Like you guys are good, you have potential, you have the drive. And now we need someone who can really push you and who has more experience at international levels in different countries, not South Africa. Whereas Vicky has experience in South Africa. Right. And so
she's very good at because she knows the system, knows right.
Yes. And she's definitely taking synchro to a different level in South Africa. But we definitely realized that we needed some international input. And that's when we kind of reached out and did our research. And that's when Cece came along, our Chinese coach, and she is wonderful. She was hardcore, so hardcore. Right. She pushed us so hard.
Cece from China, did she live in China before coming to South Africa to you guys, or?
She lived and trained in China.
Right.
So she was part of the Chinese team from a young age, I think like 12 until she was 20, basically at a school where they train and they like board and they do synchro all day and like a little bit of schoolwork. So she was in the Chinese system.
So basically that school was set up that their focus is just synchro.
Yeah, well, I think it was like a sports.
But it's an institution, but she was part of that institution, and her thing was synchro.
So she first-hand experienced hardcore training, which is why she brought so much knowledge and expertise to us.
Right.
And then she has been living in London or England, then she came to South Africa.
So at least language was not getting instructions across. That wasn't a challenge.
No, not at all.
Right.
Not at all.
How different? What was the first thing that you guys were like, whoa, okay, now we're in a different league here? Or like, what was the first thing that you guys...
The first thing was probably that we weren't allowed to talk to each other or laugh.
Okay.
Or, like during the session, you know, like even just commenting on anything, literally, what you did that weekend. It was like, no, you're at training now, and she was like, you can talk about that later. We were like, okay. So it was that, and then there was also the structure of her sessions. It was very much like, we do this on the land for this amount of time, and then you have like 1 minute to get yourself ready and into a costume and in the pool. There was no wasting time. That was a big difference. When you have that person to be like, do this now, do that now, get in the pool now, this is what we're doing. You don't waste time. We were so much more time efficient.
Right.
Yeah.
Sounds like a culture shock also, because we come from a culture of talking.
Yes.
You know, you talk.
Yes.
I mean, I even see my son when after school and then they go into practice, they're talking and practice is supposed to start at 3, and these boys are like 2 minutes past 3 and are still talking.
Exactly.
And, you know. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And at the time, did you guys understand why she was putting these things in place?
Definitely. Definitely.
And I mean, through that training time, I mean, were you seeing also the improvements in terms of your scores and
100%. So we went to World Champs in Japan in July, where we were just coached by Vicky, and we had a 3-week camp with an international coach from Malta.
Right.
But that was the only international input we had. Then we came back from July and we just trained with Vicky and Tanya. And then Cece came before our competition in December. And she was literally with us for 3 weeks. And after those 3 weeks, we saw such an improvement in our routine and sharpness, timing, height. Yeah, it was incredible to see.
And was it just small fixes that she did, or was it, or not fixes, but small changes, or did she introduce like big things that? Because I think in why I'm asking these questions, I think in elite sport, at that level, the changes should not be so big in terms of your inputs that change the score to a massive. Now there, the margins are quite small, you know. So in terms of her interventions in your training, like.
So to be honest, it was probably just that she pushed us harder and didn't allow us to push back. Whereas working with other coaches, they were kind of like, okay, you guys look tired, you know, it's okay, you're a little bit sloppy today, but you are tired, hey. Whereas she would be like, why are you sloppy? I know you're tired, but don't be sloppy.
Okay.
So it was just like a different approach, I guess, to training. And then there definitely were things that she put in place, like the land training. She did so much core strength with us, which definitely made an impact. And then flexibility and small little tweaks with our technique.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was saying this to Laura the other day, from a spectator's perspective, when I'm watching you guys in the pool, it looks like you guys are doing ballet in water. You know, it's just beautiful in terms of the synchronization, you guys jumping out the water and all those things. I was actually watching the Russian team. I think they won the last Olympics. They're just machines. But there's also a sense of intimacy in not only in the routine, but also in the interaction between you and your partner. Now, not having seen Laura for, I don't know how long you hadn't seen her before you moved down to Cape Town, and in such a small, short space of time, how did you guys work on that relationship and that, Laura calls it connectedness? You know, and how did you guys maintain, or rather achieve that connectedness in such a short space of time? Because for me, it was, it's It's a relationship that you guys are building and
Yeah.
trust and all those other
Yeah.
things.
So we are just naturally quite connected. You know, we have a really good base of friendship. But I think we both love to be silly. We love to try new things. We love to laugh. And we did a lot of that in the beginning of the process. Lots of like trying to make TikTok videos and just being absolutely silly in front of the camera and just have the best time. And we had so much fun in the beginning of this process. We had so much fun together, which I think really formed a good foundation
Right.
for that connectedness. And then, yeah, we're both quite like emotional people. So we like to talk about our emotions and how we feel. And so we kept those lines of communication open as well about how the other person was feeling, so that we always knew, you know, how you're arriving to training, where your head is at. And when life got overwhelming for the one, the other could kind of pick
fantastic.
up, and vice versa. So yeah, we established those lines of communication openly from the beginning, which helped with that. Yeah.
During that process of you guys doing these fantastic things, you know, TikToks and all these other things, were there any moments where sometimes past issues, past insecurities would pop up, and then whether it results into a blowout between the two of you or a disagreement or stuff like that? Did you guys have those type of moments? And if you did, how did you guys have them?
Yeah.
But then overcome them and get into the pool and still connect again.
Yeah.
Because you got to do that. You got to. It sounds like you've got to overcome those things quite quickly, because there's no time to be. You don't have a week to think about life.
Exactly.
You're training. You're on the clock
every day.
Yes.
Yeah. So we definitely did have moments like that. I mean, over the year, I wouldn't say there were more than 10. So that's pretty good, I would say. But I mean, life gets overwhelming, you know, and I think that it's that maybe lack of communication that got in the way there. And so yeah, we did definitely need to clear the air, and also talk about expectations, you know, what is your expectation of me when I arrive at practice, and to get out of practice, how do you want me to be, and like things like that were really important to talk about. And then we did have a couple of times where we weren't able to talk before getting into the pool. So there was this like bad vibe, you know, getting into the pool, and then you can feel it, and even our coaches could see it. And sometimes they would stop and be like, "Okay, guys, what's up? Come on, let's talk it out." They would stop us, and then we would talk about how the one was feeling, how the other was feeling, sort it out in the pool, carry on. So it really was communication.
But it sounds like just lessons on relationships.
Yeah.
In terms of how to have a healthy relationship with your partner.
Yeah.
Is it something that you could have maybe in your marriage, looking back in hindsight with this knowledge now, you could have sort of, you did say you tried your best, you know, and that's all you could have tried with the knowledge you had at the time, you know.
Yeah.
But now with this added knowledge that you have, are there skills there that you, not only in your relationships going forward, but in terms of looking back in your marriage, that hey, maybe that thing I could have maybe handled it like this?
I definitely think so. But I mean, you live and you learn.
100%, yes.
And now, as long as I take these lessons and apply them, that's the important thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So your last event that you did was
Japan World Champs, and then that was in July, and then in December was just a national competition,
right,
national age groups.
Okay.
That was in PE.
Right.
Sorry, East London. So that was the last event.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
We'll chat about in another time, because even at that event, Olympics or June 2024 was still very much in the picture.
Yeah.
It was very much in the picture up until February this year, I think it is, February this year. But we'll get into that at a later stage. So now going forward, what's happening in Jess's life? Because now you can't go to 20. Okay, let's just say you're not able to go to Olympics.
Yes.
All right. So once you found out those news that you couldn't go to the Olympics, talk me through that. Like what after you found out the news?
Okay. Yeah.
What was the next thing now on your mind in terms of, because you have to live, you've got a life, you know, you can't just like now, so what?
Yeah, so it's made me think, okay, like now I can go back to the drawing board about what sport I pursue, what I do with my career, where I go, how I pursue that. And so I've had to go back and kind of see where I'm going. And so in terms of OT, I'm still at the same practice that I'm at and just trying to build up a client base there. I'm working really nicely with the OT that owns that practice, and trying to get into a school to do some groups. So yeah, I'm making some moves on my career side of things. And then in terms of the sports side of things, I have fallen back into the triathlon scene. I really have actually developed more of a love for the water post the synchro thing. And I just love putting my head down and just going for a swim.
In a normal pool or open water? Or?
In a normal pool,
right.
But I'm really exploring the open water scene, and I'm quite keen on getting in there. But Cape Town is cold.
Hey, don't mess with Cape Town, especially there, that Camps Bay side.
Yeah.
Camps Bay blow. Hey, don't mess there.
So anyway, so I'm kind of like going for the open water swimming and the triathlons.
Right.
And that's my training, and as Jess would have it, can't do anything half-hearted. So I'm fully invested.
Don't expect anything less.
Got a triathlon coach,
okay.
And I think I'm gonna aim for a 70.3 at IronMan, and then maybe a full IronMan next year.
Yeah. So it's gonna be your first 70.3 after you've done your last one in Durban. Okay, which was in 2022, you said. Huh?
Yeah.
So 2 years later.
Yeah.
Okay. And any goals, or is it just to try your best and see where you land?
Yeah, I think I'll try to beat my time, although the course will be different, so I'm not sure.
I've got a love-hate relationship with with open water swimming. Hey.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you currently doing now in terms of that? Because why I'm asking that question, I mean, I think that's when I met you, actually. I was busy training for my Robben Island.
Yes. Did you do it?
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't know.
What are you talking about?
I don't know. Did you do it in a wetsuit?
I did a wetsuit.
Okay, good.
No.
You're a sane person.
No. You know what? Justin and those guys, they can go in there without...
Crazy.
No. So I remember. So that was my first time ever. And again, Laura says, Charles, I think you should do something, with your time.
Yeah.
I'm like, you are still on an Olympic high. So you just get away from me, because I know she gets like that. When she came back from Olympics, she was like, I can conquer the world. You must do this, you must do that. Yeah. So then anyway, convinced me to do the training. And then I remember on the boat going out to Robben Island. And then actually it was lovely because 6 o'clock in the morning, summer.
Yeah.
And then driving out there on the boat, the rubber duck, I see dolphins in the sun. I'm like, okay, this is beautiful.
Yeah.
The stars are lining, everything.
Yeah.
And then we told them to jump off, then swim towards the island, and then you're going to start off from there. But now you got to work your way through a coral reef.
Oh, scary.
I did not account for a coral reef in my training. Okay,
No.
and you know they get in between your legs,
Oh
and
my goodness.
so now I am shitting myself because coral reef was not in the training plan.
Yes. Oh my.
All right. And so we swim to the start, and then the person goes, "Okay, go start the clocks." Now there's waves because it's a bit of a reef. Someone's telling me I'll just pull on the coral. I'm panicking because now I'm feeling that coral is dragging me down. It's around my ankles. It was terrible.
Yeah.
The first 100 meters was terrible. You know, but then after that, after I got through the break, oh, it was beautiful.
And you get in a rhythm.
Get in a rhythm,
Yeah.
and it's just left, right,
Yeah.
left, right,
Yeah.
and then you just go. I remember there was a time where I actually just stopped, and then I just looked. There were like ships there, Table Mountain.
And you're like, I'm in the middle of the ocean.
You know what I'm saying?
Amazing.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like but you also realize your how small you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then I must say there was a moment there when I was swimming, and then there was like like birds doing something in the front.
Oh my.
And that's when you're like,
Yes. What's there?
Exactly. It's like, yo. So the guy on the boat was like, yo, brother, don't even tell me, just pull me out. If you just even see a fin, I don't care. Don't mistake a dolphin for a shark.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't just pull me out. Don't even let me ask questions. But no, it was lovely. Hey, it was it was probably one of the most gratifying things that I've done in terms of just the goal, setting a goal and achieving that goal, and just how beautiful, and nature also, the beauty of nature. I think there's something about nature when you're outside, and whether it's running or cycling, it's just very calming. One of the reasons why one of the main reasons why I started my podcast, I said to you earlier on, was how we as people judge each other, you know, and not knowing each other. You just make a judgment call based on what the person looks like, says, speaks, etc. And one of the important things about this is once we start to talk to each other, and you spent a year in a village, you can speak Zulu, you know, you found so much commonality in that community where you were not scared to run in there because work forced you, but by work forcing you, then you sort of took the time then to take it on yourself now to actually expose yourself further on, you know, and it broke down those barriers that we put up in front of ourselves where people say, don't go there because it's dangerous, you know, because they couldn't do it, you know. And for you, are there moments in your life where you either felt that, you know, you were being judged, or you judged someone, and how did you feel anything? Did that have any impact on your life? You know,
Sure, I think a lot of how we kind of live our life is through these preconceived ideas of people before we actually know their story, hey? But I think I catch myself doing it a lot in small ways, just with people before I've even spoken to them.
Like what?
Like, you know, even for instance, like people on the side of the road, like begging, I always think to myself, I'm pretty sure he doesn't want to be there, and he has a story as to why he got there. I haven't really taken the time to find out their stories, I must say. Maybe that will be a challenge for me going forward, but I think it is, everybody has a story, and so I definitely do that, but I am more aware of it.
But I think your story earlier on with the lady that you're helping out during COVID.
The Tubbs,
Tubbs, you know, and as I said, you know, you think that it's just a woman who's just doing it, but you took the time to actually say, well, hang on, there's something interesting here, and then let me get to know you, and you know, So I think we do those things sometimes indirectly, and we just don't take the time to actually think about it.
It's funny the way actually if I look at maybe being judged, a lot of the people from the community in Durban, that informal settlement, I think judge me, and in a way of saying, oh well, she's a white girl, she has enough money, she has a nice car, she has a good job, and all of those things without knowing, like my story.
Right.
And that maybe I don't have all of those things going for me.
Hey, you're speaking to something. There's this thing that we assume, and I don't know whether there's a link between assumption and judging, where I will look at you because you're a white woman, and I'll make a judgment call that you've got money, you've got these things, you've got these things,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Exactly. Exactly.
Sounds like you've been through those a couple of times.
Yeah.
Jess?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time, for your vulnerability, for your honesty. I really do appreciate it. These conversations are important. These conversations are important, as we said earlier on, not only between sexes, but between races.
Yeah.
When we can start to then come across, and you come across, and then we start to break down
the walls.
Exactly.
And there's commonality there. We just gotta break the walls down.
That's it.
And it's these conversations. So thank you for creating this space.
No, it's a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. Thanks, Jess. And